Zoom. All right. Well, welcome to the 5D Academy of Higher Consciousness. I'm Zarathustra, your host. We're broadcasting from Los Angeles. Um, today's topic, we're going to be talking about what is freedom? What do you mean by freedom? And what we're going to do is, as always, we're going to do a short 15-minute meditation. And after that, when we go in a deeper level of silence, then we can get into our topic and talk about it. And it appears to be that it works a lot better when we take some time and we center ourselves after a long day of being engaged in the world. Um, the mind gets quiet, the heart opens up, and then we can receive the transmission of the spiritual knowledge and wisdom in a much, much better way. Those of you who are viewing this broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, just keep in mind that I'm not able to corresponding with you while I'm broadcasting. The best way to do so, if you want to be in direct contact with me, is to join us on our Zoom platform, which you can do it through my website. That's Zarathustra.tv. You go to the Academy, 5D Academy, and you sign up from there. And then in that way, we can communicate with each other directly. Um, so let's take a moment, take a deep breath, and sink inside yourself. Relax inside yourself. Kind of let everything go, all your problems, issues that you've been dealing with. Let everything go and sink in. Take a deep breath. Bring your attention inwards towards the source of your thoughts. Where do your thoughts come from? Where do your thoughts come from? Look for the source, go deep within, and see where do your thoughts come from. And as you go deep within yourself, you realize that you fall into a deep state of silence. Everything becomes quiet. Slowly come back here. Hmm. So how are we doing? Can you hear me fine? Yeah, good. So what is freedom? We are um, Maria Maria Marie from Poland. She wrote to me on Facebook about freedom, and what is it that we're referring to freedom? Anybody, any ideas what we're talking about? You want to share your point of view? Ba- okay, basically when I talk about freedom and my teachers were talking about freedom, is it's freedom from suffering, freedom from your mind, the tricks and the limitations that the mind creates, all the thoughts that come into your mind that, for example, you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough. This is one of the major thoughts that most people deal with, because uh, there is no like a department of, like, I don't know of any governments in the world that they have a ministry, a department of ugliness, that every week or every other week you receive a mail, or somebody comes and knocks on your door, and or you get an email that you're ugly, that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy enough. So such thing doesn't exist. Maybe when we were kids, and sometimes some people are in an abusive relationship, that their parents or teachers or partners telling them they're not good enough, they're ugly. Um, but normally in your adulthood, um, to most people, that doesn't happen. So somebody else is telling you you're not good enough, you're out of shape, you're not worthy, you're stupid. And this is something that basically is happening in your own mind. You are the only person who comes up with this narrative. And you tell yourself that you're not good enough, you're not attractive enough, you're stupid, you do the same mistake, you don't worth, or you're not worthy of having a good life, or finding the partner of your life, or having the um, success that you feel like you desire. So the mind keeps sabotaging and also keeps coming back with all these thoughts and ideas. And we're a lot of times we're not even aware of it, that we buy it, we take it. So you look at other people being successful, and in your head they can be there, but you cannot, because you're not worthy of happiness, or finally having the kind of life you like to have. So that's one of the areas that the mind comes and tells you these things. Other areas. So, and okay, so, and I'm going to come to the solution, and I'm going to tell you how you can overcome this by how you can tackle this issue. Um, but the suggestion and the solution of tackling this issue is the same as the rest of the problems that I'm going to be sharing with you in regards of how to become free. The vast majority of human beings on this planet who do not have any kind of spiritual teachings, as well as a large number of spiritual seekers who do have spiritual training, still fall into the same category of believing that their thinking process is who they are. So the mainstream general public, which has no idea about any sort of spiritual work, is absolutely completely identified with what they're thinking. So they believe, they never question it, they never doubt it, because they never come to the awareness that maybe they're not one with what is going on in their head. Then you go to a more conscious community that is working on itself, but it's still trapped and it's still in a cycle of suffering, because now they're trying to control their thoughts and they're trying to manifest using the power of thinking by manifesting objects and getting what they want, or manipulating the situation of life in their liking. And there is a vast majority, there is a very big number of teachers that are teaching this sort of techniques and methods of mind control and manipulating the mind to get what we want. So, which it results at a lot of times not getting what you want. So then that brings disappointment and its failure and results in suffering. So they're all trapped in that area. And that's just because they really believe whatever they're thinking, it's who they are. So that's one section, which is thinking of who you are, and in your mind defining that person, that character. So then it comes to whatever you're feeling, your emotions. And that's basically either hormonal or based on what we've been eating, or the kind of news that we're receiving, whether it's the news from TV channels and social media, or the news that you get from your family, friends, like whatever is going on in your life or whatever is going on in the world. And when you get some sort of bad news, that triggers you and triggers your emotions, and then suddenly you are having anxiety, you're having fear, um, something happens, or you heard some bad news about what's going on in the world, or let's say your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend is telling you that he or she is not into you anymore. That's going to trigger you. Or something happened at your job, that's going to trigger you. You may be losing your job, or somebody else got promoted instead of you did, or whatever. There's like a million different kind of things that happen during the day to us that triggers our emotions. So all of a sudden you're feeling really good, everything is great, everything is, you know, happy, and then suddenly you get some kind of news which triggers your emotions and you crash. So we're in this yo-yo, up and down and up and down and up and down, and this ups and downs, emotional ups and downs, is basically related to other other world. And that is when things go your way, you're happy, and if things don't go your way, you're miserable, you're unhappy, and it results into suffering. You start to suffer, you're miserable, you're unhappy, you're going through anxiety, you're going through despair, because things did not go your way. Somebody said something, somebody did something that it triggers you. So that's one way. The other one is, which again we're going to look at this and get into it. The other one is like when something physical happened to you and creates pain and suffering, which we all have experienced it. As well as, let's say you're on a spiritual path and you're trying to get to a certain place and you're not getting there, and it creates disappointments and leads you to this place of dissatisfaction. So what is this dissatisfaction? What is this so-called suffering, or going into this miserable place? What is it? How does this happen? This could be also physical. It could be that your body is not producing enough serotonin, it's not producing the feel good drugs in your system. Uh, it could be that you're hooked on a lot of prescription medications that are affecting you, having depression, or you drink a lot and and party too much. A lot of it is drinking. Is that yeah, you're feeling really good when you're drinking, and then the next day you start feeling really miserable. So you have to go back into it. There's just a lot of different things that are triggering. So it could be physical, biological. Now, let's say that, let's just bypass the physical part of it, that there is something wrong in your system, that it does create anxiety, fear, or there's lack of feel good drugs in your brain, and you end up being depressed. So let's just put this for a moment aside. We'll come back to this one and talk about it. But uh, and at first, I want to talk about this other part. What I would like you to do is just pay attention in, pick up your week, like this past week, or what you can do is in this coming week, today and this coming week, just pay attention to, and you can, you can make a diary out of it for 1 week of exercising, paying attention, is that when does your mood change? So you can record it for yourself and see that, because I want you to recognize this part, and you need to do it on your own to find that out, is that normally is when something is not going your way, something that you're planning to do and it's not happening. It goes in a different direction, or whatever that is. It could be as minor as having planned a vacation with two of your girlfriends or guy friends, and the three of you are going to go, let's say, you are in living in Stockholm, Sweden, and you're planning to go to Barcelona over the weekend. And you're very excited about it. And all of a sudden, something happens, or the other two girlfriends, they cancel. And so something you wanted to happen is not happening. And all of a sudden, they canceled on you, and you are sad, and it can drag you into being depressed. So something did not go your way. Okay? So that's a simple thing. So you can pay attention to these things. So that's one example. Or, I don't know, somebody promised you're gonna you go look at an apartment, you want to rent it, and they said they're gonna give it to you, and then all of a sudden they send you an email or text message that we have decided to rent it to somebody else. And then all of a sudden you start feeling really bad, getting depressed, getting sad, and you crash. You go into this place. So these are like minor stuff. But let's go to some bigger things. Let's say that you're very invested into somebody, and you're working on this relationship with them, and you're hoping that you're going to get married. And something happens in the last moment. The person who wanted to get married to you, they change their mind. They don't want to marry you. So you're not getting what you really want. So then you crash. So there's a million of different scenarios and things that happen to us in life, whether it's financial investments or emotional investments that we do, and then it turns to a failure, which results into some sort of suffering. But it's connected to not getting what you want. Because when you're getting what you want, there's no problem. You got what you wanted. So every time you finally get what you want means you acquired the object of your desire. You got it. Whatever that was. You wanted this dress, you wanted to go on a vacation, you wanted that car, you wanted a partner, you wanted to get this high status job or position in society, whatever the story is, and you got it, and it gives you satisfaction, and you're happy. And you're happy for a short period of time, and then it wears out, and then you want something else. But when things don't go your way, then it's a different story. Now, let's kind of look at it, that why, when things don't go your way, you crash. Okay? It's, if you pay attention, is normally we crash and we get disappointed, or we suffer, or we get miserable, is because have we have invested, there's an investment into the results of what we want to get. You're invested in it. There's a big investment, emotional investment. Sometimes you have invested financially, let's say in a company, whether you bought stocks or bitcoins, or you bought real estate, or you're investing in something, and things fall apart, they don't go your way, and you lose money. That happens in life. There's no guarantee. And sometimes you have invested emotionally into something. Again, let me use this example. You're dating somebody, you've been dating this person for 2 years, and you want this person, you want to marry this person. So you're heavily invested, and you're invested because you want certain result. You want the result that this man says, let's get married, and you marry him. That is your target. And you're very, very attached to the result. It must happen. It must be in this way. So there's a very great attachment. And then when it doesn't go that way, the guy for some reason backs out. So your investment is a failure. You lost. All right. But since you're really attached to the result, means you want the result to be in a certain way that you want, and things didn't go that way, now it's going to create a big deal of emotional um, downfall. So if we start paying attention, we can identify and see and catch ourselves in life, that when I get really disappointed and I suffer, why is that? And if I go deeper and keep looking at it, I realize because I'm invested into a certain kind of result. I want things to go in this particular way. So I get what I want. And then when you don't get what you want, you crash. So you may be going to spiritual events, you're reading books, you're working on yourself, you're doing therapy, but you don't have an awareness of this topic. And you don't know why all the work you're doing on yourself is not helping you. Why are you having these extreme ups and downs? Well, one of the reasons is because things are not going your way, and you're very invested into the results. That's one thing. But that is very valid. But now you start to understand that. You start understanding that in every moment of life, whatever you're doing, from driving your car to go pick up some food at a restaurant, you ordered some food to go, you go pick it up. From that to taking your clothes to the laundromat, and you go pick up your laundry, and things are not the way you want it to be. You start paying attention from all these different things that you're doing throughout the day. How many times things don't go your way, and you were really invested in that thing to go your way. So you're really attached to it, that it must happen this way. You start bringing your awareness to it, and you start to observe yourself, that when that happens, what is your reaction? How do you react to it? And once you become aware of it and you start catching yourself, then you have an opportunity to to bring awareness there, to observe, to self-observe. Because whenever you are planning on doing something and this is a plan, you start to develop an attitude that this is in self-realization, this is in freedom. How does a free person deal with this? Somebody who has become free, what are they free from? What is freedom? Is they have developed this self-awareness of realizing that my happiness is not depending on things necessarily going my way. What if things don't go my way? Is that, am I defining my happiness based on things go my way? Only when things go my way, I'm happy. I'm happy. Well, what about a lot of times in life, things don't go your way. You don't get what you wanted. Okay, let's say you reserved, a suite in a hotel, and you're gonna go to somewhere, I don't know, wherever on a vacation, and the hotel room they're giving you is not what it looked like in the picture, and it's this you're disappointed. So you're not getting what you want, and you're upset, and you go talk to the management, but they're, it's during Christmas time or it's holiday season, and they can't relocate you. Are you going to allow that to ruin your vacation, or you can go beyond that? Is that defining your happiness? How many times that has happened in your life? You ordered something, you bought something, and it wasn't what you wanted or thought it would be. So, can you go beyond that? Can you bypass it and maintain your state of inner peace, even though something didn't go your way? So, if I develop an attitude within myself that when I really get what I wanted, so finally I got what I wanted, great, I'm really happy, I'm very I'm stoked. But also, if I don't get what I want, I am still very fine, because I have discovered that my inner happiness is not depending on I get what I want. Does this make sense to you? Yeah. So, and that is coming from self observation, self awareness, is realizing that and observing yourself, observing how your moods change. We're not trying to manipulating your moods. Don't take me wrong. I'm not teaching that. There's plenty of teachers who are teaching how you can manipulate your moods. We're not talking about that. We're talking about simply being aware and observing that how you get disappointed. And once you get disappointed, you normally we like to point finger at somebody or something that happened and blame them for our disappointment. So But once self-awareness comes, yes, I'm not saying you're not pointing your finger at somebody because they screwed you over, but you're also looking at inside within yourself that I didn't get what I wanted, and now I'm really disappointed and I'm miserable, and I'm aware of that. There's an awareness of it. So that's one part of this. But that's one part of it. There's another part is the ability and development of self observation and recognition that you are not your emotions, and being able to, from within, when you are all of a sudden crash down and get really depressed, being able to observe your depression and not get identified with it, being aware that something happened and now you are experiencing depression, but not buying it, not telling yourself that I am depressed. Because if you say I'm depressed to yourself, that means you are identifying yourself as depression, and there's no way out. But if you recognize depression, so you tell yourself depression is here and depression is visiting me, but I'm not depression because I can observe it. Excuse me for one moment. Same way of observing your thoughts, being able to look at your thoughts, that a thought comes and tells you that you are ugly, you're not worthy, you're not good enough. So you're paying attention, you're aware that a thought comes and is telling you you're not good enough. You're aware of it. Of course, all of this is not an overnight thing. It's not like you you hear this from me and all of a sudden you develop an ability you can to get over it. No, it takes time. I mean, it takes training, because you must understand that there is a lifelong uh, conditioning from childhood. You have been conditioned. So this is really deeply ingrained in your psyche of thinking and believing that you are whatever you're feeling, that's who you are. You're defining yourself by your emotional ups and downs, and you're defining yourself by your thoughts, as well as defining yourself at the very end that you are this physical body, and whatever happens to this physical body is what is happening to you. So If something happens in your physical body, you lose your fingers and they have to amputate them, or you lose your arm, then again, you can go through a lifelong of depression and misery because you lost a part of your body. And since you really identify to it, that creates suffering. So that's why, in a way, I created the life training program that a lot of you have participated, because in life training program we get trained and educated and get the know-how and the tools of how you can separate yourself, separating yourself from your thought process. We're not talking about controlling your thought process or positive thinking. Again, that's not what I teach, because it doesn't work. It just does not work. Because I know people have been doing this for years and years, and they all are still miserable. Nothing has changed. I haven't seen one single person reaches freedom from doing all these things or doing therapy work. It's okay to a certain point, but it doesn't make you free. Freedom means that when you have realized and you've come to this awareness that you are not your thinking process, you have freed yourself from your thinking process. Means your mind is there, the thoughts are there, but you are not them. You have realized that within yourself. You're not able to control your thoughts or change your thoughts or manipulate them, but you also have realized you are not what is going on in your thoughts. You're simply an observer of it. Similarly, same thing. You have become an observer of your emotional ups and downs, your moods. And of course, this cannot happen overnight, because you didn't become what you are overnight. This is accumulation of years in this life, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 years of living life and identifying with these three sectors. And now, in 5 minutes, you cannot get over it. You need training. You need to bring your awareness in that direction to get to separate yourself from it, because it's happening all the time to you. Every day, something happens that triggers your emotions. And most people go into this place of, why am I, why do I have to feel this way? Or why am I triggered? What does it mean? Like, what happened in my childhood, or what happened in my past life, or that I'm triggered by this? But it doesn't matter why. That's not where it lies. It's the fact that you are able to observe being triggered. You have to even go beyond that. You got to go deeper. So when you start working on yourself and you become aware of what we're talking about, and your self awareness and self observation mechanism is activated, which is a part of what I do, what we do at 5D Quantum Healing and Awareness, is activating that section. So the self-awareness mechanism is functioning now. Then through that observation, inner observation, your attachment to your thoughts, your attachment to your emotions start to let go. So you're not attached to what you're thinking, and you're not attached to how you're feeling. You're simply aware of it. And then you start finding yourself being free. And that leads you to the final and most powerful part, is the strong identification that we define ourselves as our physical body. This is who I am. So once you're working on yourself, you start to free yourself from the third element, which is the physical body. You start realizing that you're not this physical body either. This physical body eventually is going to get old, decay, sick, and die. That's going to happen. So you start realizing you're not this vehicle, you're not this meat, you're the observer of it. So now you're free from that too. As this process is taking place, you begin to discover another thing. You begin to discover a part of yourself that is always here. A part of yourself which is present, is sitting here, is observing. It's just like watching. And it's not affected by the events. It's not affected with the other world, and it's not affected by your inner world. It's not affected by what you're thinking or feeling, and it's not affected with what is going on in the world. It's simply here. So now your awareness starts to go in that direction. And it's the recognition of the space, the presence of the truth of who you are that is unchanging. It's ever present. It's always here. And you start to notice that. In this notice, in this transition, what happens is you begin to experience the bliss of the freedom, of that you're truly free and you're not in captivity. So suffering begins to fall. It's doesn't You're no longer suffering, and you become free. Anybody has any questions? Comments? Okay, we have a message here on the chat box. Zarathustra, on the academy a week ago, you told that freedom is a recognition that you are one who you are looking for. And also you added that it is be happy with my own self. Right. So, okay, answering this question, yes, you are who you're looking for. But when I say you are who you're looking for, is I'm not referring to the part of me. Let me use myself as an example. Who this part of me is needy and settles for picking up crumbs all the time. And when I, that part of me that it doesn't get what it wants and is always complaining and nagging, that's the ego. That's the I thought. That's the person. I'm talking about you are, when I say you are who you're looking for, is I'm referring to the part of myself which is always present, the observer, the Buddha, the part that is not changing, the part that is not going up and down, pure observer, the presence of the being which is here. And that's what I'm looking for in life, because that one is eternally peaceful. It's always present, it's always at peace, and has no stories. But we're looking for it outside. We're looking for it in teachers, in beings we call enlightened. We're looking for it that if I move to Bahamas or Canary Islands and I live by the beach in this beautiful house, all of my problems are solved. And I'm very happy. So again, we're projecting it. If I lose some more weight, if I, got a little bit taller, if I develop, I don't know, physically, if I could look better or something, I would be very happy. If I can still finally can have a family with um, the station wagon Volvo with the kids and the dog in the back and the countryside house and a great husband, I will be happy. But it's still an object. These are objects. You may get to that, and there's nothing wrong with it. Don't take me wrong. But they're not permanent, they're temporarily. So you will be happy with them when everything is there the way you want it. But then when they fall apart or something changes, you're miserable. So you're not free. Observe yourself, turn on the TV, go into internet and check out the news, and they're going to come up with all kinds of stories that the world is in turmoil and the economy is bad and things are going to get worse, and there's going to be a new pandemic coming, and there's going to be a financial institutions collapse, and blah blah blah. And see how you start acting. All of a sudden you start getting ramped up and getting anxious and nervous and scared. But someone who's free will listen to the news and will walk by it, will pass it. Someone who's free is not going to react to that news. I'm not saying they're stupid. I'm not talking about someone who's free is numb. No, they're fully aware of what's going on, but their state of happiness is not affected by the kind of news they're hearing. They have discovered the place inside themselves, which is always still. It's not emotionally up and down and up and down. It's very still. It's aware of the emotional ups and downs, but it's not identified to it. There's a world difference between these two. A world difference. If I put my happiness based on what is happening in my life, or what I get and what I don't get, I would be miserable most of the time, because a lot of times I don't get what I want. And a lot of times things don't go the way I'm projecting them to go. I'm planning on going on this direction and I end up here. And sometimes I feel like I'm stuck and I have to be here where I want to go there. So then I'm going to have to be miserable for 3 months or 6 months until I move on. A lot of times you put you're investing on a partner and they're not interested in you after a while, so they walk. So what are you going to do? Be miserable? Or you're investing in your kids or your parents or whatever, that they're going to have to be there and pay attention to you, and they don't. They just want to do their own thing. That's not freedom. But once you really pay attention and start working on this area, again, it takes time. And again, I need to clear myself. I'm not talking about manipulating the way you think, because it's just waste of your time. I'm not talking about positive thinking. Positive thinking and negative thinking, they all come together. It's the same thing. It's still a lot of thinking. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about going beyond all of that and paying attention. Where am I paying attention? Where do I focus my attention? You bring your attention on the part of yourself to discover this part that is not going up and down based on what you're getting and what is going your way. Can you get there? Can you maintain your emotional balance when things don't go your way? Can you discover that you're still fine and you're still happy, even though when you don't get things you want? Then you're free. Otherwise, you're going to go up and down and up and down and up and down. Or maybe somebody tells you something. Zarathustra, you're a failure. Zarathustra, what is this stuff you teach? It's bullshit. You don't have a successful business. A successful business is, yeah, you got a chain of successful restaurants. You got a corporation that is producing, I don't know, it's importing, exporting things. It's tangible. You got a business that is tangible. What is this teachings? This is bullshit. So let's say a family member of someone close to me and tells me like I'm a failure. This is BS, which has happened to me many times. Okay? It's kind of an insult, right? But am I going to crash? Am I going to feel miserable because somebody has told me something like this? Or I just maintain in my space because I know who I am. What if somebody I'm dating comes and tells me, you know what? I don't want to be with you anymore. I don't want to go out with you. You're too old. Or you're too broke. Or you're too short. Or I found someone better. Does it happen? Do you ever get someone coming and telling you, I'm not in love with you anymore because I want something, I'm bored. I want someone else. I met someone else. And what do you do normally? What do we do? Is that okay for them to tell you they're not into you? Of course it is. People change. People lose their interest. People desires change. Their goals change. That's fine. You've done it to other people and they do it to you. But is that how it's defining you? By someone rejecting you? Are you going to get into this spin to go downhill? Or are you going to stay where you're at? You're going to stay in your center. Because staying in your center, you have discovered the truth of who you are. You know who you are. And the truth of who you are is not affected by someone rejecting you or accepting you. The mind is projecting it on the other world, but you have gone beyond the mind and you've discovered it within. Then you're free. You have freed yourself from the process of suffering. And it's attainable. You can get to this place. You just have to pay attention. That's all you have to do, is you have to pay attention, because this is a daily challenge. It's happening every single day to all of us, regardless of who you are. And if you start paying attention, then you don't get caught into it. And eventually it becomes an automatic response. So then you find yourself that you're free. Anybody has any questions, any comments? Is there an area you want me to explain more? Somebody may come and say, for example, that, oh my God, this is going to take a very long time to develop. Well, oh yeah, this may take me a year or 2 years to develop. But so what? I mean, if you don't work on it, then where are you going to be a year or 2 years from now on?
Zarathustra,
Yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
Um, when I was signing up for your Tulum retreat, I noticed that much of the activities include shamanic activation.
Okay.
And I'm curious how that ties into freedom.
Right, right. The um, the freedom that we're going to experience and discover through the shamanism that I am teaching and sharing with you is it's a recognition of a broader universe. It's a recognition of a space and connecting to that space that is always here. So let me be a little bit more specific so it's not so abstract. Um, Last week, our dear sister Hilda asked me to talk about quick time or slow time. So there's like the secrets of universe that the shaman becomes aware of, the Sufi gets it, the alchemist that we talk they talk about in Sufism or in mysticism, they or in Kabbalah they bring it up is that the mystic, the every shaman that discovered that there is a world of spirit and started to recognize and becoming the bridge between the physical world that we live in and the invisible world, the world of spirit that exists, and to becoming a channel within these two worlds, incorporating this other awareness, this higher level of awareness of existence of the being, incorporating it into the physical world. And in order to be able to incorporate that and bring it on into your everyday life, especially as a modern shaman, is it requires breaking through the boundaries of the mind, of how the mind is, for let's say for the mainstream people, how the mind works, that this is the only way it is. If I get sick, I go see a doctor, and the only way is to get here to get over my sickness is for a doctor to give me some pills. He's wearing a white coat, and he's the supreme authority, and maybe he asks me to do a surgery or chemotherapy or whatever, and this is the only way it is. So this is the way I think. Nothing else exists. Now, the shaman, it starts to opening up and recognizing that there's also an invisible world exists beyond the physical world. So it's freeing itself from that structure of way of thinking, freeing itself from it. And in this freedom, this recognition that there is a lot more into our lives, is that the third eye starts to open up in these activations. The third eye starts to open up. And in this process of opening up your third eye and being in this environment of shamanic work, what happens is the remembrance of the the triggering the person of remembering their higher self, remembering this broader aspect of their being that exists, of tapping into the observer, that this majestic being that exists here, this like eagle that is like 30 meters high and has wingspans of 25 meters of wings, is this giant is like watching. So, a part of this shamanic work that we're going to be doing is to create a fun, playful atmosphere for this education to fall in, and to do certain kind of exercises to get us out of the mind and connect us to this other part of ourselves. So a part of it is teachings, like what we're talking about now, but the other part of it is raising our vibrations to a higher frequency, whether we're dancing, we're singing, or we're doing some active meditations, whatever angle that the teacher is going to be using in order to help us raise our vibrations to a higher frequency. And also, in order to be able to maintain this higher frequency of being, not falling back into the old ways of maintaining ourselves. And in this shift of vibrating from a higher frequency, what happens is the spiritual knowledge and wisdom automatically starts to be remembered or gets downloaded because we created the environment for it. That is this making any sense, Julie? Or did I?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. It's to create. For me, the idea is to create the environment or whatever I have to do to pull the trigger for us to go into this other level of our subconscious that has all the information and remembering. Because now, when I think about it, that even though 10, 12 years ago, it appeared that I was being downloaded information regarding how to do shamanic work and having these abilities of doing whatever I do. But now I realize that they were always there. They just needed to get activated. And it's the same thing when I'm teaching 5D quantum healing. Uh, every single human being on this planet has done healing work. Everybody has done healing work. They're just not aware of it. Everyone on this planet has done hands-on healing work, have done energetic healing work, and have done sound vibrational therapy and distant healing. They just don't know that they did it, and they don't know that they can do it. I'm going to use an example. Like, what do we do to our. Oh, hi, Shadi. I just saw you raise your hand. Okay, go ahead, Shadi John.
That's okay. You could finish what you wanted to
Yeah,
say.
the thing is that hand that comes up, it's a bad color. It should have been red. Because a lot of times somebody puts their hand up like that and I don't see it. So if you, so I think it's even better if you do your hand like that. Go
Okay, my
ahead.
fault. So you were just saying, as you in this whole shamanic retreat, and what you were talking about, raising the vibration. It was a few sessions before you said that as you raise your vibration or your consciousness opens, then you see how things come together and fall apart, like because it's unified. So would that be something that also is part of the shamanic path?
Be a little bit more specific. I'm not sure if I really understood your question.
The question is, I don't remember which academy session, but there was one time where you said when your vibration rises, or as you're more of an ego view of things instead of a small narrow view, then you could see how things in life come together and come apart, like there's a pattern, or I don't know what it is.
Yes. So go
So
ahead.
it is, so basically through this shamanic activation or path, that's also something that I guess goes with that rise or awakening.
Yes.
Through
Yes. Yeah. Every time. Look, everything depends on where you're at in your evolutionary process. So sometimes you get close to the guru, the master, the energy field. Now, I'm not talking about just the person, okay? But I'm talking about that. When I say the master,
the outside master or the one inside?
the outside master is really coming from your own inside. It's just manifested in a physical world that when you connect with it, you can understand the language. So, what the outside master does, as you get closer and you melt in more into the teachings, is eventually you begin to recognize that outside master that you are in contact with is really inside yourself. So, you start to recognize it within yourself. Maybe not the physical body of the master in you, but you start to recognize the essence, the taste, the characteristic of the presence of that master. You begin to discover it inside yourself. So eventually you realize that it's here in you. You're the one that carry that wisdom. So the goal is to awaken you to your own power, to your own wisdom and knowledge. But in the beginning, you don't know you have it. You've heard about it, you've read books, but you're not experiencing it. So the job is to chip away from it slowly, slowly. It depends who you are and where you're at. Somebody may just get triggered very quickly, and all of a sudden, all the false identity pieces, all the pieces fall off, and then you are awakened to it. Some may take longer. They still get there, but they need warm up to it. And some may take a lot longer than other people. It all depends where you're at, which it reveals itself. So when I discovered, when I would sit with Papaji or any big ones, that they had become free and they realized themselves, it was like every time I was with them, either a new confusion would be created or a new understanding would come. Something always happened. It was never dull. It wasn't like I would go in and come out and nothing would happen. Either it would make me more confused or it would make me more clear. Something would click in, which that confusion was planned to force me to dig deeper to recognize something. But the idea was not being complacent. The idea was to trigger me in this way or that way. So every time some sort of spiritual wisdom took place, and it was like peeling the onion. You got an onion and you're peeling it. So you take one layer out, and then another layer comes off. Is it making any sense?
Yeah, yes, it is. I just don't see how certain things come together and fall apart yet.
What's that?
I just don't see. I was just asking about that. How you see things come together and fall apart in your everyday life.
I'm not sure if I'm following you. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, there was a time where I don't remember when you mentioned it, that as your consciousness rises and your viewpoint gets more broad, you could see in, say, your own life how things come together and you know come together and fall apart, or come together and fall apart. You
Right.
see that, and
Right.
there's a conscious awareness of it.
Yes.
So my question was, like, for example, this retreat or the activations that Julie was talking about or asking about in the shamanic retreat, would that also have some of this in it, basically?
Yes, it does. Because you're at this shamanic retreat, and for example, there's no guarantee, but I'm using examples, right? So let's say all of a sudden in a third day you realize, you remember something that, oh wow, I'm looking at these leaves of these plants in this lush area that we're in, and I can see the molecules of them, or I can communicate with these plants. All of a sudden, you communicate with them. And where did this come from? So, all kinds of different things can happen. I'm not saying that is the goal, but things get triggered in you, things get activated in you, or some systems that are not serving you may get shut down. We don't know exactly how things are going to happen, but we know things do happen. So whenever we create this bubble, because you're entering into this bubble, this energy field. So I have you in this energy field for 8 days. So it's like a pressure cooker. And then you throw in your meat, you put your tomato, your potato, carrots, and you got it in this pressure cooker, and everything is cooking there. One is popping up quicker, one is slower. So you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you know something's happening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for bringing this up. Right. Do you ever watch you on the TV or computer? There's a program. Sometimes when they're speeding up, like seasons are going by. They got imagery of like a flower is opening up. The camera has been recording a a plant, a flower opening up, and of course they've been doing it in like maybe a period of a week or 10 days for this flower to open up. Or you're just watching. They're showing an image of a place. Let's say you're looking at Colorado mountains, and then the mountain is there, but then it's fast. So you see snow in it, and then the snow melts, and then flowers come out, and then flowers go back, and then fall is coming, and the colors changing, and that then snow comes back. When they show a um, a, a clip of kind of, it's divided but it's going fast, and you're seeing the seasons coming. Maybe someone's standing there and all these seasons come and go in front of them, but the person is there. Have you seen that? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Yeah. So for me it was like, it happens a lot to me. Like, I am in Los Angeles, or this is where I'm at right now, and you know, it's crazy. It's a big city. It's chaotic. There's fire trucks, sirens going. There's a police sirens going. It's busy. There is like, it depends where you're at, but there's a lot going on. And then when you come back and look back at you dig into your stuff in your storage, and you're finding older computers you had, you're finding cameras, you're finding, um, uh, what was the one that you used to put a tape recorder and, put the um, microphone on and listening to tape recorder? It was a Walkman, yeah, in the past. Then the Walkman turned to a CD player, and now you don't need any of them. Your phone is your camera, it's your Walkman. You're listening to music to it, and you do navigation with it. So, but if you look back, like the progression of all this technology in a short period of time, from let's say 30 years ago, 25 years ago, when you go in your storage and you're finding all these old stuff you had, like answering service, answering machine, and then there was beeper. If somebody wanted to get hold of you, there was no cell phone, so there was a beeper. You had a beeper, and they would call this number, and your beeper would go dee, 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 dee. Then you had to go call this number. So you got all these old stuff in a box. You've kept it in your storage, and you're going through it, and you're seeing all these things, and all these objects appeared in your life, and now they're obsolete. They're just gone. And and there are times for me that it happens, like I'm somewhere, whether I'm driving, I'm in the traffic jam, or I'm in the city, and then I get away and I go to Mulholland, or I go to Topanga Canyon. I pull over, I'm watching a view from somewhere, that I'm just sitting in a car still, And I'm just seeing all these changes that are constantly happening and been happening in my life. And things appear and disappear, appear and disappear. And you're just sitting there. You're not trying to do anything. You're not meditating or anything. You're just sitting there and you're seeing the revolution of the world, of whatever it used to be and what is now and where it's going. How fast things are changing. And whatever was yesterday's high tech is completely obsolete. So, or you look back and all the people who were in your life, you go through your old album, you're looking at the pictures from the old days, physical pictures, and you look at your own pictures, how you used to look like, and what you are now, and your friends and all these people that they were in your life and they're not in your life anymore. All these things. And then there are times like I'm sitting there, I can just see all this, like, fast forward, seasons changing. It's coming and going, coming and going, and it's changing. And my hair, you're looking old pictures that I used to be long, short, looking different. But now one thing hasn't changed. One thing is always here. Regardless of how this shape has changed, how many people I had around me and I don't have, or I have more people or not. But one thing's, and all the people came to my life and they're gone or they died, friends or family. But then this guy, Zarathustra, the I am, is here. It's not changing, it's here. Everything comes and goes. And one day it's gonna be like the hair is completely gone, or it's all white, and even gone. Like yesterday, I went to this place. It's interesting we bring it up. I went to like the end of my life, and I saw my face. It was very interesting. I saw like 1,000 wrinkles on my face. It was just full of wrinkles. Went to the very end to that point, and then I come back. I wasn't doing purposely. It just my consciousness went there and saw the last day that I'm breathing on the planet and came back. That all of this thing is changing constantly. But one thing, it remains the same. So what does this tell you when you recognize that? What does it bring up for you? It brings you back into this place that the I am, that the shaman, the one who recognizes its expansion, its connection to the spirit world and physical world, who is that one who has recognized this thing? Who is this one that is always here? It's always here. It's neither going or coming. It's always in one spot. Yet everything else comes and goes in front of it. Recognizing that. And that's where freedom comes. Because you realize none of it is real. It's all comes and goes and appears and disappears in the presence of the one who doesn't change. Everything else that is changing is not real. It's simply images. It's real in the moment, but then it changes to something else. So it's not real. And since it's not real, it has no power over you. It cannot do anything to you because it's not real. It's only an image. It's like dreams. It's made out of ether. It has no power. And that's where you realize you're free. Because there's nothing to be afraid of. No matter what happens, I am, it remains here. It's always here. And that's what we're interested in. We're interested in freedom. And that's always been my message, and that's always going to be my message. The liberation to free ourselves from that which is not real and discover what is real, which its basis, its foundation is in love. Love is the very fabric of the universe. Everything else appears on it. But when we talk about love, we're not talking about romantic love or even the conditional human love. We're not talking about that. We're talking about that which is always here. And the closest to it is the mother's love to the child. Because the mother is loving the child unconditionally. That's the closest it comes to what I'm talking about. That presence, that love that you're experiencing, it's beyond. It's just like has no condition. No matter what happens, it's here. And then you discover that inside yourself. You discover it, it's here. And it's yours. And you can never lose it. And in tapping into that, it overrides everything else. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world. It doesn't matter how dark the world could be and how much suffering people inflict on each other. That one overcomes everything. It takes over. So we're coming to the end of the academy. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm very happy to see you again. Our next academy will be next Wednesday. I intend on continuing to do the academy, the Wednesday academy webinars until I travel to Europe, which is going to be, I'll be in Poland as of October 5th. So I'm visiting 4 countries: Poland, Norway, Sweden, and Germany. So that's my European tour. Those of you who are in Europe, I hope you can join me at one of my events. You can check my schedule on my website, which is Zarathustra.tv. Feel free, if you have any questions, you can email me, info@Zarathustra.tv. And my social media pages are Zarathustra 5D. We'll send you a copy of this broadcast via email. Also, simultaneously, this will be posted on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And also, we're doing this on Instagram. Oh, by the way, Julie, I double checked all of our emails, and we never got an email from you last week regarding the question you had. I just wanted to let you know that. Somehow, it never went through. So I just wanted to let you know that I looked into it. Nice seeing you all. And again, just take a moment, fall back into your heart. Don't pay attention to the noise in the world. There's a lot of blah, 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 blah. A lot of stories, which is you can use it as a challenge or an instrument to help you come back into your own center. Because every time you come back, you fall back into your own center, you discover that everything is very quiet. Here is very safe. Here is where nothing is happening. But you come out of here and go somewhere, then it's a turmoil. So come back here. Come back into this place within and discover your freedom, discover your love. Don't pay any attention to the world. The world is going to do its own thing all the time. Leave the world to the creator. The one that created it is the one who's responsible to deal with it. You don't need to worry about it. You just come back to your own place, to this place. Nice seeing you all. Blessings. And hope to see you. By the way, I forgot to say, yes, our retreat in Tulum is on, and that's going to be from February 4th to 12th. And if you're interested, contact me if you have any questions, and you can still sign up. We would love to have you there. Namaste. God bless you, and look forward to seeing you again.
Recordings.